there, and welcome to a new speed art series on my channel, Story Swap, where we'll be taking characters from various stories we tell here and switching their universes to see what they would look like in an alternate world. The first swap we will be doing is drawing Origins animatic series characters in the Brightside Masks RPG universe. This means all our beloved puppies and kitties will be transformed into superpowered heroes and villains. Don't worry, you don't have to know every single thing about both shows to enjoy the video. Now let's see what the 12 vessels from Origins would be up to if they were in Halcyon Bay. First up is Ivy. I chose the Janice playbook for Ivy, which is basically a very Spider-Man-esque character where they're living dual lives. I thought that would fit Ivy extremely well in this case, considering I know her history with Reed and how she would want to live that double life to go out there and fight crime and then come home and be that mundane civilian. So I wanted to give her obviously something very Spider-Man-like. With the mask and the full body suit, she's very clearly trying to fully hide her identity so that way her civilian life and her hero life don't collide. But I've always known Ivy to have long blonde hair in her human form, so when I'm doing all of these designs, I'm going to be basing them heavily off of their human designs, or the ones that I at least headcanoned in my own head for these characters. I covered Ivy's outfit with a lot of vines and ivy, obviously, but I wanted to have a little flower at the center of her heart because I feel like that is where her main power comes from. She's a healer, she can fly, so she's obviously going to be this very graceful superhero, and I thought it would be really interesting if she viewed herself as somebody who is covered in thorns and vines, and her true heart is not entirely visible. Which also speaks true to how she feels around Reed. And then for her cape, I wanted to make it look like a giant leaf, and I thought that was really cute. So that was really fun. And for her hero name, I chose Evergreen because that is a variant of Ivy. And Evergreen sounds like a really great healer name, somebody who is forever green, forever growing, forever healing. So that is why I went with those themes and names, and this is our hero Evergreen, Ivy in the Brightside universe. Next up is Heather, which, oh my goodness, I know this is one of my favorite designs personally. Starlight, a hero who is a doomed character. She basically is doomed to becoming a spirit, a ghost. You can see where it has started on her leg. She is becoming a spirit more and more every time she uses her superpowers. So there's a high risk to her being a hero, but she does it anyway because she knows it's what's right. I decided to make Heather a Phytopian, which Phytopians in Brightside are these alien creatures who are giraffe chinchillas. They are so much fun to draw, and I just loved how fluffy they are, and it worked really well for Heather because she has those big poofy ears and big poofy tail. So of course I chose Phytopian for her as her species. And as for her superpowers, she has spirit sight, obviously. Seeing spirit, she's becoming a spirit, and I thought that'd be a really interesting way to tie her to the Lantern Bearer as well. She has some telepathy and some wind control, also inspired by the Lantern Bearer, since the Lantern Bearer always appears in a gust of wind, of magical wind. I also gave her a really fun staff with the Lantern Bearer's lantern attached to it because in the Lantern Bearer's human form, that's what the Lantern Bearer has. So now Heather kind of has that too, and you can tell Heather's outfit is definitely heavily inspired by all of the lovely stars of the Lantern Bearer and is clearly still a follower of this god. And of course I had to add a million sparkles onto Heather's design. Phytopians naturally have a lot of sparkly dust. They take dust baths, so I thought that'd be really fun to have in her design because it works so well with all the stars. And this is what superhero Heather would look like in Brightside. Next up is Thistle! Oh, I'm so excited about Thistle's design! I made Thistle an elemental from Brightside. So elementals in my RPG can basically be made of any solid element. So for Thistle, I thought it'd be super awesome for them to be made of metal. So this is their design in the Brightside universe. They would literally be made of metal. They'd have giant fists that they can transform into very hard, solid metal spikes, and they'd be able to punch people. You can't tell me how happy Thistle would be in this universe. They still have their chipped ear and their scar and a couple of other scars because, you know, they're very battle-ridden, but also wanted to emphasize the fact that, hey, this character has rough edges. I had so much fun with all the metal spikes and all the rough edges, and I did end up keeping Thistle's tail, even though elementals, like, I guess technically don't need to have tails or don't have tails. I just thought it would make this look a lot more like Thistle if the tail was there, because without it, it would just, the resemblance to Thistle wasn't really there, so I had to add the tail, and I think it'd be really funny if, like, they didn't have a tail, but they just made it with their superpowers because they wanted one. For their playbook, I chose the Delinquent, which is basically a hero, or somewhere in the middle between hero and villain, chooses to do whatever they want with their powers. They're kind of a rabble-rouser. They're kind of a loose cannon, in a way, and I thought that really fit Thistle's character, because I feel like Thistle would punch anybody, hero or villain. It doesn't matter. If you're doing the wrong thing, Thistle's gonna punch you with that giant metal arm. So that is why I chose that for Thistle. And then for their hero name, Revelaire, or Plume, that is also a variant of Thistle, which is really cool. There was a lot of different names I could have chosen, but this one, Plume, just kind of reminded me of like lava or like something like fiery and feisty, so that's why I went with the name for Thistle as Revelaire, because it also sounds like revolution or rival, which all of those things Thistle stands for. And look at our lovely median Thistle. Oh boy, let's give it up for Ebony! Let's go! Oh my gosh, we had a little too much fun with this design. I had to go something a little more southern, obviously, because Ebony in this universe would be the Bull, which is basically a character who has a love and a rival, and they are constantly balancing themselves between the both of them. Ebony's rival, obviously, is going to be Camellia, while Ebony's love is going to be his daughter Daisy. And if he was going to be a superhero, you know his daughter is going to design every aspect of his costume. Oh yes, Ebony wears this because of Daisy, no doubt. Daisy came up with a whole entire outfit and probably made him look very stereotypically like a cowboy. But this is probably what she views as a superhero, and of course, complete with the mask, Ebony wears it with so much pride because his daughter made it, and that's really sweet. I really wanted to include the bandana from Ebony's design, and I managed to make the color scheme work with a lot of greens and reds because Ebony's eyes are green and the bandana is red, and that was really cool. And of course, for his superpower, I thought super strength was just perfect because can you imagine Ebony saving Daisy in that train yard by like stopping a train or something crazy like that with his bare hands? You know he would do absolutely anything for his daughter, and that would just be like the most awesome superhero moment ever. And you know Daisy would never ever let him live it down and would just be super floored by the idea that he's a superhero. So I decided to give him the name Freight, which is a type of train, in honor of all of the train themes in Ebony's episode of 12 and Origins. And this is what he would look like in the Brightside universe. Rose was super fun. I chose the Scion playbook for Rose, which means that she is the daughter of supervillains, and she's trying to be a hero, which obviously Rose's parents are the main antagonists of any of her episodes, so I thought it'd be really interesting if they were villains, and she's trying to be a superhero. So her appearance has to be very villain-like, which was honestly a great challenge to me, because I tried so hard to work in the colors from the original design with a Crimson Rose Swallowtail, which is a butterfly, but oh my gosh, the butterfly just works really well because it has Rose in the title, but it also just sounds like a villainous butterfly, like Crimson Rose, that is very edgy. I decided to work in the blacks and the blues and the whites into this design, and that's why Rose might appear a little more villain-like. It's because she's trying to blend in with her family. She has these plant growth powers, and she can talk to plants because she is an Alarian, a species from Brightside who are basically bug people. So she's actually partially made of plants, and she is a butterfly, so she can communicate to them. And I thought it would just be super sweet if she could grow roses and talk to them, you know, kind of find herself in those things because her family is super evil. I decided to give her hero name New Leaf because that is a very Scion name to give somebody, because it is all about turning over a new leaf. It is all about going against what your legacy has set out before you and doing something different than the previous generation. So she wants to be a superhero, and I believe in her. I think she can do it. This is our lovely Rose in the Brightside universe. I might have gone a little ham on Cyprus, but can you blame me? The Edge? Are you serious? Of course this is our first villain. Cyprus would be such a cool villain. Dude, this was perfect. I decided to go with the name Quietus because it is a direct translation to death, which I think it would bring about Cyprus's powers as the Transformed. The Transformed means that he basically was a normal person at one point, but something went terribly wrong and now he can never go back. So I figured we'll keep the story the same. Cyprus probably dies in a very tragic way and becomes a half ghost. So Cyprus can have intangibility and ice powers because he can go basically Danny Phantom mode and turn into a ghost and turn into a person and turn into a ghost. And because of that whole tragedy and him getting stuck between life and death, I feel like that would just make him a villain right off the bat. So of course I gave him a hood. He's this very shrouded in darkness kind of character, very icy character to begin with. And I really love this design. Cyprus in this universe would cause so much chaos. I feel like Fennel is going to shock a lot of you because I label Fennel as a villain, and here's why. I chose the playbook Harbinger, which basically means that he's a time traveler from the future, from a bad future, from an alternative future that is not good. So my idea was that Fennel is blind in this universe and can only see visions from the bad universe. So he has this sort of future sight, but to an alternative world, and he can only see the bad things of those worlds. Which turns him to be quite a villain, because he knows in his alternative world, him and Cosmo were a lot different. And oh boy, the drama. I also decided to give Fennel some hyper empathy, so he has some strong emotional superpowers, which also work really well with the colorful dots that Fennel explains in 12. For his design, I went a lot more like futuristic, cybernetic kind of power-looking devices and cloaks and things, because he's from a future, so I wanted him to look more like a time traveler. And then for his eyes, I definitely wanted to cover it up with some sort of headband or eye band, and then have some designs on there to resemble his stripes and his blind eyes. Overall, I think this is one of the fan favorite designs, and I really enjoy how it turned out. I think Fennel as a time traveler becoming a villain is probably not what anybody expected me to do in this universe, but come on, how cool is it? Oh, Lupine! Oh, Lupine. Okay, for Lupine, I chose the Legacy, which you'll learn more about in Lupine's episode of Origins. Lupine comes from a purebred family and follows a lot of very strict family rules. So, legacies are usually superheroes who follow a very specific lineage. And for Lupine, in this universe, Lupine would come from a family of heroes, so obviously Lupine's going to be a hero, named Armorhead, which is, funny enough, a nickname they give to this Australian boarfish, which is what I based Lupine's design off of as a Joshua. Joshua are a species that I made for Brightside that are essentially fish people. So I wanted to use something from Australia, which is where Lupine is actually from, and also pick something that kind of fits him with the spots, and I thought the little spikes would be really cute for his hero design as well. As for his missing leg, I went ahead and did a prosthetic leg, and then I gave him some really cool, like, little gadgets, like these little arm spikes that he can use, because he's got these very, like, sharp little edges to him, despite being so round and spotted and cute. And of course he has the same emblem of all of his family members, sort of like this underwater hero symbol. And for his superpowers, he can control water and obviously breathe underwater as a fish person. And that is Lupine in the Brightside universe. On to one of my personal favorites, Poppy, who I decided to name Tangle, because Poppy is the protege, which means she has a mentor where she is learning to be a superhero from. Who's the mentor, you ask? None other than Lotus. Lotus passed down the magic scarf from her family lineage down to Poppy, and now the magic scarf can sling Poppy around the city and save citizens. So Poppy is a lovely little legacy little girl who is going to be taking this magic scarf from her grandmother and learning how to be a superhero. I drew Poppy to be very childlike because I imagine this to be just a super fun, very fulfilling moment. of, I know this family tradition is passed down and now it's my turn to take on the scarf and save people, and like, I imagine her to be very youthful and childlike in a way. So she's gonna be a very like newbie hero, but I think she's still gonna do a pretty darn good job because the scarf knows what it's doing. But it'll be super cute, and I decided to make Poppy's sweater to resemble Lotus's blanket in a way. But I wanted to make the colors a lot brighter because that's just kind of Poppy's personality. And I love this so much. The idea of it, everything just is adorable, and Poppy would be popping off in this universe. No pun intended. Mellow is our resident beacon, which means he does not have superpowers at all, but that doesn't stop him from being a superhero. I gave him the name Bug Bite, but bite as in like gigabyte, something technological, because Mellow is actually extremely smart and makes a bunch of really cool gadgets to help him fight crime. So for Mellow's design, I went with a lot of obviously bug and plant things and made his sleeves look like Venus flytraps and gave him a little belt that looks like a ladybug and little antennas on his mask. But he also has these fun little bug gadgets that he controls around like drones and has them help him fight crime. And he's also very adept at the bow and arrow, which is really cool and very beacon-like. And I tried to stick a lot to his original design, honestly. I tried to mimic what the German Shepherd would look like as a person, and then also keep his purple collar because purple really suits him. And I struggled a little bit. I was gonna go with green, but then it looked a little too much like Ivy's design, so I went full on blue and purple for Mellow. And that is our beacon boy in the Brightside universe. I went the very creative route for Willow in this universe. Kid Dash is going to be a newborn superhero with a newfound purpose. Basically, this kid is made of wheels. So Willow's arms, Willow's feet are literally made of wheels, and he can turn into basically a little car. He has super speed, so he can zoom around super fast and save people. And I thought it would be really cool if he was part cyborg, part human, and basically became his wheelchair, which is really cool. And now he gets to zoom around and save people, and he's also going to be very much like Poppy in the sense he's going to be very childlike and very new to heroics, but I don't think that's going to make him any less of a hero. I think Willow is going to inspire everybody. And I've decided to keep all of the green tones on Willow because his collar is also something new. I added a lot of new things with the redesigns for Origins, and I really think green has always suited him, so we're gonna keep his design nice and bright and green, and this is what our super speed boy would look like in Brightside. On to the last vessel, Rue. Rue is gonna be a villain, and you're probably like wondering why, but she is the Joined playbook. The Joined are basically two people who are extremely close. Either their superpowers tie them together, their past tie them together, but they do absolutely everything together. And Rue's Joined was her husband Oak until he passed away, turning her into a villain, which is why her name is Lady Lament, because she is full of anger and regret and all of these very sad emotions. She still definitely has her kids, which I definitely want her kids to be, you know, more opposed to the villain ways of life. And I decided to make Rue have some weather power. She has some weather manipulation, just because I thought it'd be really symbolic, since the finale of 12 involved a lot of weather changes, and it was very symbolic around when it rained, Rue was upset, when it was sunny, Rue was happy. So I really wanted her emotions to be tied to the weather, which would be so much fun. And then for her species, I went with Akita, which is basically a lizard person in the Brightside universe. And for her earrings, those are actually her rings, like they're wedding bands for Rue and Oak, which I know is like super mean of me. I'm so sorry, I'm like so evil. And I obviously went with a very dark, kind of like almost medieval-ish outfit for her, just because I thought that would be really fitting to her aesthetic, with the blacks and browns really complementing all of her original design colors. And of course highlighting her green eyes. And this is what Rue's villainous form would be like if she was in the Brightside universe. These would be our heroes and villains of tomorrow if Origins and Brightside collided. What are your thoughts? What would you change? I'm going to be doing a lot more of these videos in the future. The next video is going to be all about the Reapers in the Brightside universe. I'm hoping to do all of the origins as Brightside characters first, and then we'll be swapping it around and doing Brightside in the Origins universe. So it'll be super fun, and it's going to be an awesome way to take all of the stories we tell here and kind of put them all together and bring the two different fandoms together to see how awesome it would be if we swapped the AUs around. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time for some more shenanigans as we swap our stories within all the Pet Peeves universes.